Good Tuesday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Just in this morning, former state senator Nicole Mitchell will spend 180 days in a workhouse for breaking into her stepmother's home in Detroit Lakes. That was the sentence handed down for Mitchell, who was convicted of 2 felony counts earlier this year. Mitchell testified during that trial she wasn't trying to take anything, but wanted to check overnight on her stepmother, who has Alzheimer's. However, the night of the break-in, she told police she was there to take back sentimental things like her late father's ashes. New developments this morning on the legal battle involving a homeless encampment in Minneapolis. The Lake Street location owned by Hamoudi Sabri was the site of a deadly mass shooting last week. Now Sabri and city officials are at odds over how to move forward, and according to city attorneys, negotiations have stalled after Sabri rejected their offers. Meantime, at the federal courthouse in St. Paul, Minneapolis city attorneys are asking a judge to rule in their favor in a lawsuit brought last year by former residents of what was known as the Ninokasi encampment. Attorneys for encampment residents say the encampment closures and the ensuing disposal of tents and belongings amounts to a violation of their constitutional rights. City attorneys, however, argue that the residents knowingly trespassed on city property repeatedly, including cutting up through locked fences to set up the Ninokasi encampments, which ultimately ended up last winter with an explosion and a fire. Happening today, President Donald Trump is set to address the UN General Assembly. The White House says Trump will tout U.S. strength and what he considers his personal accomplishments. Many are waiting to hear what, if anything, he says about Gaza. About 80% of UN members now backed Palestinian statehood after 9 recognized it this week. Israel opposes a 2-state solution. And President Trump making a controversial announcement linking acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, with an increased risk of autism in children whose mothers take it during pregnancy. Though the maker of Tylenol, medical experts and researchers say the medication is safe. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. Tylenol has long been recommended as the safest form of pain and fever relief during pregnancy, and the American College of OBGYNs is standing by that guidance, with the medical community more broadly arguing the Trump administration has not presented new data to back its controversial claims.
For this reason, they are...
In a White House briefing flanked by his top health officials, President Trump forcefully opposing a widely used medication during pregnancy.
If you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol.
Announcing the FDA will start telling doctors that acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, can increase the risk of autism, though decades of research have determined it's safe.
Study after study has actually shown that there's no causal link with Tylenol and pregnancy and autism.
The FDA commissioner referencing an analysis from New York's Mount Sinai of more than 45 studies, with some finding acetaminophen during pregnancy may be linked to a higher risk of autism, but urging further study. Many other large-scale studies, including one published last year in the Journal of the American Medical Association that included sibling comparisons, found no link.
Gold standard research, 25 years, 2.5 million kids, no association.
And while President Trump argued there was no downside to avoiding Tylenol in pregnancy aside from pain,
Do you feel you can't tough it out?
the company that makes Tylenol, which refutes any link to autism, noted that avoiding the drug could mean pregnant women, quote, suffer through conditions like fever that are potentially harmful to both mom and baby, or use riskier alternatives. Some parents of children with autism voicing frustration.
I never used acetaminophen during my pregnancy with my son. It was actually a very painless pregnancy. He was never given it in his childhood or his infancy.
While acknowledging the desire for answers, as expectant parents are left with more questions. The Trump administration also announcing a new $50 million effort to turbocharge autism research, while the FDA is set to approve the prescription drug leucovorin as a treatment for autism symptoms, though medical experts say there's little evidence it works. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
This morning, we're also expecting changes to who can get a COVID-19 shot in Minnesota this fall. This comes after the CDC voted to drop the recommendation for most healthy adults to get vaccinated. Minnesota now plans to defy that federal guidance to make sure anyone who wants the vaccine can still get it. Yesterday, the state health department issued an order allowing pharmacists to give the shot, legally protecting them from disobeying federal guidelines.
I think that what Minnesotans need to know is that there hasn't been any change in the safety of the vaccine that would warrant more caution. And we want to be sure that people have access to it.
The full recommendation will become final if it's cleared by the CDC acting director. This morning, the Turning Point USA Tour is getting ready to head out east for its next stop at Virginia Tech. That's after the conservative organization swung by the University of Minnesota last evening. The organization was founded by the late Charlie Kirk as a way to reach young people and spread conservative politics. Kirk was shot and killed while speaking at a university in Utah nearly 2 weeks ago. Yesterday's event at Northrop Memorial in Minneapolis featured conservative commentator Michael Knowles, who took center stage in Kirk's absence. Students who stood in line for hours saying they were inspired by Kirk's words.
Charlie was someone who made me so interested about politics from when I was a junior in high school.
I'm hoping to see people come together after all of this.
But protesters outside of the event said Kirk's words inspired division and hate.
We are not ready to accept hate in our country as the standard. And the fact that there's so many people ready to be here and hear this message and celebrate it, it's terrifying.
That protest remained peaceful and no violence or altercations have been reported. The Turning Point event was hosted by the University of Minnesota Turning Point chapter and was not university sponsored. Tonight, Jimmy Kimmel Live will return to ABC's airwaves nearly a week after the show was pulled for comments Kimmel made about Charlie Kirk's assassination. But not all stations will be airing it. Sinclair, a company that operates more than 35 ABC affiliates across the U.S., says it plans to replace Kimmel with its own programming. In a statement, the company says it's still in talks with ABC about the show's future. Kimmel is expected to address his comments surrounding Charlie Kirk in tonight's monologue. Some encouraging news about a 12-year-old girl critically injured in the mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis. Her family says she is improving. Sophia Forches's family says she'll move from acute care to an inpatient rehabilitation program this week. They say she has a long road ahead, but she's making steady progress and showing signs of neurological recovery. Sophia was shot in the head and the bullet is still lodged in her brain. Her family is asking people to continue praying for her recovery. This morning, the entire Metro Transit Blue Line is shut down for maintenance. The closure went into effect at 10 o'clock last night and will last for nearly 2 weeks. Audrey Russo joins us now with a breakdown of your options.
The Blue Line runs from Minneapolis in the Target Field area all the way down to the Mall of America. It hits the airport on the way down. Now you'll notice nary a speck of blue on this map. These are actually where all the replacement bus stops are going to be for the next 2 weeks, and you can see them here in black, these little dots. Plus, Metro staff will also be at these replacement bus stops in order to help riders navigate these changes. Now, according to the Metro Transit website, there won't be service on either the Blue Line or the Green Line between Target Field and US Bank Stadium. The Green Line will run up to US Bank, and then you can transfer to a bus to get further downtown. Now, Metro Transit reps say the Blue Line replacement buses will run up to every 8 minutes, but they stress you are still going to have to budget for extra time.
Buses, unlike trains, they have to be in traffic. They have to go left and right at intersections, and so it will take a little more time for people in some places along the corridor.
Now, these changes are just phase one of a 3-stage plan to upgrade the entire light rail system. Be forewarned, you are also going to have to pay $2 to ride these replacement buses. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. For the first time, we're seeing new renderings of what the future Minneapolis Democracy Center could look like. The former Minneapolis Police 3rd Precinct building will include space for election staff and supplies, act as an early voting center, and have space for community partners. The Minneapolis City Council unanimously approved a plan with architects earlier this year. Members saw the plans for the first time at a committee meeting yesterday. During the presentation, city officials say the center will improve the voter experience.
The new facility will strengthen the safety of our staff and our voters, strengthen the security of our ballots and our equipment, and at the same time create an open, transparent, and welcoming environment. Those are values that are essential to the voter experience.
A city spokesperson says construction on the center is expected to start early next year and last into 2027. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.